Who am I and who are you? The ultimate questions for who we are as whole beings experiencing on this earth in this human journey. And to find the answers to these questions, we are going to be sitting down and exploring the minds for the wisdom and knowledge of the layers that make up our beings. From the mind, to the emotions, to the body, and to the astral with the light body. We will be exploring these different multi-dimensional aspects of who we are as the I Am presence in this world on earth, in the human experience. We'll get to have fun, cracking smiles, and diving deep into the knowledge with different psychics, intuitives, shamans, coaches, teachers, practitioners, and many more different beautiful conscious souls of the everyday life to gather the information we need in order to unravel these layers and become more aware and present in ourself as the whole I Am presence that we are. And I'm very grateful for this and really look forward to the journey. So thank you all for tapping in and being a part of this. And I am your host, Marcus, aka Christolight, and I will be on this journey with you from the beginning to the end as we travel through the process of clearing layers. Hey, blessed day, everybody. Thank you all for tapping in for the 5th episode of The Process of Clearing Layers. I am your host, Marcus, aka Christolight. And before we begin diving into this live from this previous Sunday on the 5th of February, where we got to sit with a really good divine brother of mine that I've known for a few years now here in Ohio, Chad Hoeffler. I just want to say this episode is very, very heartwarming, very genuine, and deep in some ways, as we get to travel through the mind of our brother Chad, who used to be a sergeant in the Marines as well as a cop, and he shares some of his experiences that really started giving him a conscious awakening about his life choices, what he had gotten himself into, and what he wanted to do with himself moving forward. And some of these experiences are pretty gut-wrenching and heart-feeling. So I just want to let you all know ahead of time that you may feel some emotions, you may even have some tears come out during this episode. And also, before we begin, we do talk about plant medicine in this episode, and This talk about plant medicine is strictly about his experiences. It is not to promote or tell everybody that it's for them, as it's not for everybody. And if you are to participate, to be in a safe and sacred environment with people that will support and consciously know what they're doing when they're on the medicine or around you with it. So I just wanted to put that out there before we begin the episode. And I want to say thank you to all of you guys that have been supporting, that have been along this journey ever since episode 1, going through the introduction about my backstory and who I am as your sacred host. And we are rolling along, sharing this deep knowledge and the wisdom from our brothers and sisters. And feel free to comment below and let me know which episode's been your favorite so far out of the 5 episodes. We've had the episode with myself. We've had the one with Golden Sun Oregon. We've had Aurora Sky with the QHHT. We've also had Hytherian Yuga, the Dragonic High Priest, with the MV-CRX water system. And now we have our good brother Chad talking about his powerful transformational path that he has lived from being a sergeant in the Marines and cop, taking on that deprogramming, and what it's looked like for him to deprogram that heavy programming into a shamanic-like, balanced, divine masculine brother that holds healthy brotherhood warrior circles for expressing emotions and healing. He also hosts a podcast. He also is a carrier of the violet flame. And he also does a lot of other beautiful, inspiring, and leadership-like things for this world. So enjoy this episode and comment below which one's been your favorite so far. I'd love to know. And if you have any ideas about the type of people that you would like to come onto this to talk about something that you're interested in that involves exploring the mind, body, emotions, spiritual energy process of clearing layers and regaining our balance and harmony with our being, I would definitely be open to that. And if you're also one of these people, or say beautiful souls, that is a practitioner, a teacher, a psychologist, a shaman, a intuitive, or a psychic, or just any conscious, beautiful soul that would love to share their story, knowledge, and wisdom for the collective, feel free to direct message me or comment below. And you can direct message me at my Instagram, sacredlight33, on Facebook, Christolight Robbins, or on my email, marcustut23@gmail.com. Thank you guys all, once again, for being here along this journey of the process of clearing layers. We're still open to accepting donations. If you guys want to send heart-based donations for myself and the guest. And it's a beautiful ride so far. Let's keep on rolling. Let's keep on remembering who we are and shedding these layers. Wholeness, balance, love. Enjoy this episode. And at the end, there will be a box breathing technique guided by Chad. Grand Rising, grand day to all of you on this world, and welcome on this beautiful Sunday to another Process of Clearing Layers episode. We are now on episode 5, and I am your sacred host, Marcus, aka Christolight, and today we are going to be journeying. We are going to be journeying into a very good brother of mine, as well as a well-balanced divine masculine figure in this world. And this journey is going to be going within his timeline and his story of transformation. With this transformation comes deprogramming and reprogramming of the conscious mind. Our authentic soul guest today for the process of clearing layers, Chad Hoeffler, based out of Ohio. He is currently a juvenile correctional officer, and during his working hours, he leads juveniles through breath play and meditation sessions. Pretty powerful and very unique. Chad, he used to be a former sergeant in the Marines, as well as a cop as well. And over time, he gradually started embarking upon his spiritual awakening, his spiritual journey. And as he started moving along, he came across plant medicine. And he had a profound experience where he was able to contact his father on the other side. Ever since then, Chad has been shifted and transformed, and he has been growing and developing on his self-awareness journey. Chad is a carrier of the violet flame energy. He is deeply rooted to shamanic practices, as well as holding ceremony and being a part of ceremony. Chad is also a husband, and he is a father of 2 children. And he takes a lot of passion in leading by example, self-growth and development and responsibility. So today we are going to hear from Chad about his story, his knowledge and wisdom when it comes to ceremony, shamanic practices, and what it takes to transform, to deprogram and reprogram from such heavy programming, such as being a sergeant in the Marine Corps and a cop, into a well-balanced divine masculine, serving with shamanic healing practices. So here in a moment, we will be joined by our guest. And all of these live sessions for the process of clearing layers are an open Q&A. So if you guys have any questions for our authentic soul guests, feel free to drop them down below in the question mark bubble next to the comments, and we will get to your questions and answer them to the best of your abilities regarding his path, any of these practices, or what it takes to deprogram and reprogram your conscious. Now, Grand day. Welcome, brother.
Thank you for having me, brother. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. It is an absolute honor. You know, we've embarked upon this journey together for a few years now, and we've hit many different angles of experience. We have gone through different alleyways and avenues of expressing and sharing our wisdom and knowledge, not only between each other, but for others. And I'm really grateful to now be here in this moment on this process of clearing layers series online to hold the space for you to share your transformation and what type of power and what it takes to deprogram and reprogram from being in the Marines and being a cop into a well-balanced, healthy, divine masculine figure that is moving and working with shamanic and holistic healing practices. So thank you. It's a great honor.
Oh, thank you so much for the space, brother. You know, it means so much to be able to share. You know, it's such a powerful thing to use our voice and to share our story. So not only for ourselves, but for others to connect with and know they're not alone, and maybe to empower and inspire some people. So thank you for this space.
Absolutely. I couldn't have it any other way. And before we begin and before we dive into your story and your knowledge and wisdom, I just want to put it out there with everybody that the subject of plant medicine will be brought up, but this is strictly due to the experiences of Chad and what he has experienced and gone through with the medicine. This is not a space for promoting the medicine. This is not a space to tell you that it's for everybody. This is strictly for experience and what has come from the experience for Chad. So I just wanted to put that out there, as it will be a subject that will be brought up.
Beautiful disclaimer, brother. Very important disclaimer.
Yes, absolutely. Because as we both know, there's ways that it can be irresponsibly taken, and it can have a dramatic effect on a being if they do not take it responsibly and know what they are doing.
Absolutely, as well as knowing the integration process. And you know, for me, that's been the biggest part, is the integration. So it's a very powerful tool, you know, not to be used recreational, like Marcus said. And man, you nailed it.
Thank you. All right, so Chad Hoeffler.
That's me.
So glad to see you again, man.
Yeah, it's good.
And I guess we can begin all the way back to the Marine Corps and your period with being a cop as well.
Okay.
And if you don't mind, what was it like for you mentally, energetically, and emotionally to be in the Marine Corps, and not only be in the Marines, but be a sergeant and a cop as well? What was that period of life like for you?
Ego-driven, to keep it very simple. But, you know, the indoctrination really started my sophomore year of high school, is when September 11th happened. And so that programming and indoctrination from the military and the agenda that was being pushed as far as terrorists, and we got to go take care of them, you know, and that's really what started my journey. And I decided right then, you know, I felt that call to service. And so I told my parents after that happened, you know, I'm going to join the Marine Corps. And my mom wasn't too excited about it, but she understood. And spiritually, I was an atheist, you know, going in. I was, like I said, very ego driven. I didn't know anything greater outside of myself. And I was very successful in those fields as far as law enforcement and the Marine Corps. It started in boot camp. I was a squad leader, and then on to engineer school. I was a class lieutenant and the class leader, outstanding graduate or outstanding cadet. And, you know, I was finding great success in these things and doing so well. So it just kept feeding the ego programming. And, you know, guys in the Marine Corps used to joke, I was one of the mean girls, you know. I was, you know, I always had to be the best, always had to be at the front of the pack. And, you know, I did anything and everything I could to be at the front of the pack as far as working hard. You know, I was never bad to people. I don't want to misconstrue what I mean by that, but I worked hard. I worked really, really hard to attain that success and that image. You know, we work so hard in our lives when we're young to create this image of what we want to become and what we think other people want from us. And like I said, it was a really powerful time in my life. And I built a very powerful foundation for the work that I do now. And now that I understand spirit and how things work a little more, you know, obviously I don't have a clue, but what I understand now, it's really shown me that those times in my life were a very powerful foundation for my voice, for so many things in my life, to build those roots down deep into Mother Earth energetically and be able to grow and blossom from there. So
That is truly amazing. And how long were you in the Marine Corps? What was the year time period?
from 2006 to 2018.
So quite a while.
Yeah, most of my time was reserve time. Early on, I did some active duty time, a couple combat deployments under my belt, and then once I got off of active duty, I went to the police academy. You know, for me, that was kind of the next call to service. And again, I was very successful as the outstanding honor graduate of my police academy class. Set some records for OPATA, which is the Ohio Police Regulating Agency, as far as physical fitness standards. And yeah, so I had some very, very heavy programming, you know, and I thrived in that programming, you know. So for me, I didn't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah. Wow. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for serving, and thank you for your path and what you have done and been through.
Thank you, brother. It's been my pleasure. Honestly has.
Yeah. It's I gotta say, like when I first met you, it was truly an honor to be in your presence, because you know it's not every day that you get to meet someone that has successfully climbed the ranks of the military, but then has really put it all to the side and has just been open in their heart and been passionate about serving and caring for others, and just giving, you know, the energy and love that they have so unconditionally. So I gotta say, like, that was what really blew me away when I first met you.
Yeah. It was so beautiful how we connected too, man. You know, so often in the digital era, we look at these powerful platforms as, you know, toxic or whatever, you know. And for me, for a long time, it was, you know, I was always debating and arguing. But what a powerful tool for connection. And that's how you and I connected, just started popping up on my feed and started sharing things that really resonated deep, and
Yep.
just hit it off from there, brother. And here we are.
Yeah, I remember the first day I came over to your house. We were just sitting in the kitchen, sitting on the countertops, just talking,
Yeah.
talking consciousness and expanding upon just genuine connection. And yeah, it was really wonderful. So you were a sergeant in the Marines, and then you were a cop as well. And what was going on in your family life during that time, if I can ask?
You know, once I got out of the military, I struggled with anger and alcoholism, and it ruined my first marriage. You know, I've been married before, and now I'm presently married to my beautiful wife, Brittany. And, you know, that time in my life was very chaotic on one front, as far as emotional stability. You know, I didn't know how to express my emotions as a ego-driven boy. Becoming a man, it was always rub some dirt on it. Don't be a sissy. Don't be a girl. Stop crying. You know, and the typical toxic masculine programming that capitalistic society gives us as young boys. You know, I didn't know how to express that emotion, so every single emotion went to anger. You know, that was the easy path for me. And so compile that with some traumatic experiences in my Middle East time, with alcohol, with a failing relationship that for some reason. I thought a marriage would fix all of that, you know, and just being young and naive to the truth of life, you know. And it was a powerful transformation also towards the end of that, because I started going to the VA for talk therapy. They started putting me on medication for night terrors and mood, and took them for about a month. And it really hit me one day. I've been into sports my whole life, and I played softball at the time, and I started taking these medications. And one night I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to go to softball. And that's so unlike me, because I'm so passionate about sports. You know, I played them since I was 4, and I love the camaraderie and the brotherhood and in competition, you know. And so that really raised some alarms. Like, what do you mean you don't want to go to softball? Like, that internal dialogue, like, man, something is really up, you know. So at that point, I quit taking the medication and just talk therapy from there on for 3 years with the VA, and exercised some demons, and laid some foundational work to open up moving into my journey with plant medicines and different healing modalities later on down the road. So that period of time was a dark period, if you will, you know, going through the shadows and sitting with my shadows and understanding myself. That's where I started to lay the foundational work of understanding trauma, really, you know. So
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, brother. So we actually have our first question today from the viewers, and it's coming from Energy Soul Child, and her question is, what positive message did you take away from being in the Marines or as a law enforcement?
That's a great question. Thank you. I think the most positive, powerful message is the greater call to service. You know, the selflessness that I saw all around me, from the battlefield to people as police officers really going out of your way. You know, one thing a lot of people don't see from the police officer point of view is you're really dealing with people on their worst day, you know, and that's very heavy. And you are not, at least in my experience, and that's all I can speak from with all of this is my experience, but you're not really trained how to decompress or how to process the things that you see both in the military and in law enforcement. You know, that was one of the things that really was unfortunate with the whole defund the police movement that we saw sweep the nation. You know, reform, absolutely, but when we're defunding police, that means they're getting less training. You know, and that's dangerous. That's the opposite route that we should take. We need more training. We need psychological training. We need so much more, you know, for the greater good of all of us. And that can go through all of society. We all need more of understanding emotion and not rub some dirt on it, move on, you know.
Agreed. Well said. Thank you for your perspective on that.
Absolutely. I love that question. Thank you, Energy Soul Child.
Energy Soul Child, yeah. She's a very good sister of ours. So my question for you is, and this is as open as you would like to be about this, because I know sometimes past experiences can be a little much for our system, but were there any traumatic experiences that had really left a mark on you from being in the military that took a long time for you to heal?
The one that comes to me when you ask that question is, so I went to the Middle East later on as the war, about midway through the war. It was 2008, 2009 time frame. And when we got over there, you know, all the guys were like, oh, there's no action, there's nothing going on. And, you know, you kind of let your guard down, and especially not having any experience in a war zone, you don't know what's going to happen. So our second mission out, we did convoy security for semi trucks. We had gun trucks, and there were 6 gun trucks, and we would escort these semis from base to base all over the Middle East, or all over Iraq, excuse me. And the second mission, the truck in front of me got hit by an IED. And throughout training, they ingrained in us positive identification. So what that means is having to positively identify the trigger man and not just go on intuition. You know, you have to do it or you're going to face court martial. You're facing time in prison, you know, and they really ingrained that into us. And so what had happened, there was a vehicle up on the side of the road with three men with their flashers on, completely stopped. And I had seen it in the distance. They didn't make anything of it. And the ID went off. And these three men hop in their car, turn the flashers off, and they cut right through our convoy, which is a huge no-no. I was a vehicle commander at the time, and I decided to not have my gunner engage these guys with the 50 cal. And it was really difficult for me because I knew in my heart of hearts it was them. You know, my intuition was, hey, these are the guys. And I made that decision not to have them do that because the programming in my mind, positive identification, like I'm not trying to spend my life in prison, you know? So it kept me from doing that. Fast forward a couple of days, same vehicle, another IED attack that killed 2 soldiers. And man, that really set heavy with me for a long time because perhaps I could have prevented that, you know, and later on down the road, you know, it still gets me a little bit later on down the road in a ceremony. It came to me like, you know, I once I started learning about the military and the alternative agenda, that the true agenda, you know, what I view as the true agenda, I hated the programming that I had received. But one night in ceremony, it had come to me that the very programming that they had instilled in me saved my soul from having to sit with taking a life. It saved my gunner's soul from having to open up and shoot people, you know? That's a very heavy thing. And, you know, I had no control over the IED that happened the next day, you know, and it may not have been those gentlemen, you know? But that's something that I don't know if it was survivor guilt, but not making the decision to engage those men and then hearing about other men losing their life potentially from the same men, that really, really sat heavy with me. And it still gets me. So that's the one that really jumps out at me when you ask that question, brother.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank
you
you.
for sharing that. And thank you for having the courage and the willpower to share that with us today.
Thank you for the space, brother.
Absolutely. It's all love.
Indeed.
So we have another question. It's from a Energy Soul Child as well. And her question is, would you say you not wanting to do softball was the start of a first conscious experience?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, most of my life, I was very intuitive. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I always was pretty well in tune. You know, I also have a background in psychology. I went to college before I joined the Marine Corps. Man, what a great question. I think, yes, that was when I became aware of being conscious. You know, I was always conscious, but I wasn't conscious of being conscious, if that makes any sense. You know, like
Yeah.
I've always been aware and, you know, attention to detail, always paid attention to my surroundings, very conscious of this realm. But as far as being aware of that awareness, yes, that was probably the start of self-awareness, if you will.
Wow, that is a great question.
I appreciate you making me analyze myself. That's one of my favorite things to do.
All right. So now that we've touched on your period of being a sergeant in the Marines, is there anything else at all that you'd like to express from your period of being a cop?
You know, I became a police officer really when the movement for society and police really started to become detached. You know, it was no longer about serving and protecting. It started to become us against them. You know, the citizens versus police, and that was so unfortunate to me because, you know, there was one year as a police officer, I was reprimanded for not writing enough tickets, and it was really was the turning point for me of really starting to question my decision to become a police officer, because I didn't become a police officer to harass people for stuff that I do in a vehicle, you know, rolling a stop sign, you know, little things, you know, that a lot
Yeah.
of people get hit for. And so that was kind of the start of the turning point. It's like, okay, this isn't all that it cracked up to be, you know, and I also don't want to paint police as these harassers. There are some very beautiful human beings that are police officers that would do anything for anybody. But the system as a whole, it started to rub me the wrong way, and it became so toxic with the us versus them agenda that was pushed in the mainstream, and a lot of citizens felt, you know, scared of police officers, and I hated that, you know, and parents used to bring their kids like, oh, there's a cop, you better be good or he's going to get you. It's like, what are we teaching our children? Like, yes, there are bad officers that have done some very bad things, but we are servants, you know, and I think both sides lost view of that service. And, you know, it's going to take a lot of healing, you know, and it's, you know, I don't know what it's going to take. I don't have the answers, but I started to realize that path was no longer serving me and what I was starting to realize who I truly was, my soul essence, and not Chad Hoeffler, the Marine police officer. So, yeah, it was a powerful time for me, very, very powerful time. So for all of us, you know, especially with law enforcement and society. So
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing that, because I've actually never been able to hear a perspective of an officer during that period of that division that had been taking place.
mm-hmm.
So, um, yeah, thank you for sharing that perspective.
Of course, brother.
So moving on from there, when and what was the beginning experiences like that started bringing you into your awakening and self-awareness spiritually?
Much like many people, trauma really triggered my deep awakening and realizing that there was so much more to life. So in 2015, my father was killed in an automobile accident, and it shook me to my foundation. You know, obviously losing a parent unexpectedly. My dad was healthy. He's 51, just had retired. And I didn't have the strong foundational belief in greater. So his death left me questioning everything. You know, why? Why did this happen? What God would do this? What God would take a healthy man off the earth and away from his family? You know, and
Yeah.
it surfaced a lot of anger. You know, and shortly after that, I physically, my foundation crumbled. I had to have lower back surgery in the same year. So that took me out of the physical realm, because I was unable to move. I was unable to play sports. I was unable to do all the things that my ego-driven self had known. So it really forced me to sit with myself. And shortly after this, divinely, a brother of mine, James, pastor, he lives in Costa Rica, started this Awaken the Warrior Spirit program. And I'm so grateful, because that was really the catalyst for me to dive deep within myself. So it was a 12-week program, mind, body, spirit, really using neuro-linguistic programming to dive deep within our subconscious. And the program was so powerful and so wonderful, and just came about at the perfect time. So that was really the catalyst to start diving into so much greater than what I had known my whole life.
Wow. It's amazing how what would be like tragedy for us, especially in the physical sense, can end up being what moves us into a greater awareness and a much higher light of who we are. And how is your back to this day?
Strong, brother. I ran five big races last year, a couple ultra marathons, a couple marathons, a couple half marathons. So strong foundation.
That's incredible. And what was the longest one you did?
41.2 miles.
41.2 miles. Wow. What was your time on that?
It took me just over 8 hours.
That's incredible, man. Wow.
Little
Talk about
crazy.
inspired. That is amazing. And what was your preparation like? I know you started diving into taking ice baths and training regularly on the treadmill. What else were you doing training for that?
Breath work. A lot of breath work. That's been kind of a tool that I've used throughout this, but I really leaned on Wim Hof breathing when I started to get back into the ice baths. And ice baths were such a powerful tool for recovery, to where I could go out and run 20 miles, come home, decompress, get in the ice bath, get rid of all the inflammation, and go out and do it again the next day. So ice baths, I know you guys have probably seen them all over there. It's like the latest craze on TikTok, at least in my algorithm, people doing ice baths all over the place. So it's a super powerful tool to get rid of inflammation, which causes all of our disease and aches and pains, and just another tool from my belt that I use.
Incredible. So we left off at talking about this amazing conscious community that you came in contact with, and Envision Fest. And what was this experience like at Envision Fest? And I know from what you shared with me, there was actually also a kind of tipping and deciding point on whether you should go or not, due to the relationship that you had.
You cut out for some of that question. I caught the part about what was the Envision experience like.
Okay.
And then you kind of cut out. So
I just asked what the experience was like for you during Envision Fest.
Okay.
And then remember from our conversation back when we first met, there was also like an ultimatum of if you should go or not due to your relationship. So if you're open to it, I'd love to hear more about that experience at Envision Fest, and also what that ultimatum was like for everybody to really hear the kind of split decisions of timelines and doing what we have to do for the highest good.
Yeah, of course, brother. So back to the Awakening the Warrior Spirit program. At the end of that, James invited the men that did the retreat to come down at his place in the jungle of Costa Rica and attend this transformational festival. So I went about it completely wrong with my wife. You know, I didn't know why I was being pulled so hard to this experience. I mean, I know now, but at the time I did not know. And I didn't think that my wife would be okay with me just going to the jungle of Costa Rica to this music festival. And she would have been, but I went about it the whole wrong way. It was only a few weeks out. I had already bought my ticket and arranged transportation and everything. And I waited till the last minute to tell her, like, hey, by the way, I'm going to Costa Rica in a few weeks to this festival with James. And as you know, it didn't sit well, you know, and rightfully so. She had every right to be angry and upset and hurt and confused. And I was just as confused at the time. You know, I didn't know why I had to go to this festival. I just had to go. I'd never been to a music festival. It wasn't something that tickled my fancy, if you will. And so she was like, I don't know if I'm going to be here when you get back. It was that powerful of a confrontation, because of the way I went about it. I know in my heart of hearts that in retrospect, she would have been fully supportive as she is now for me. And I created a lot of trauma for my wife. And it took a long time for us to work through that. It was hard to explain because I didn't have the words of what was drawing me down there. So I ended up going, because I knew I had to go. And once I got down there, I felt like a complete fish out of water. Here, this guy with a high and tight, clean shaved, I was out of place at this festival, and most of the people there were people that I would have judged in my past and had nothing to do with. As a police officer, you profile people. Police officers can tell you they don't profile people, but it's the psychology of being a police officer. You profile it and compartmentalize people based on their looks and their mannerisms and their actions, and so I was really uncomfortable. So the first night, the guys go back to their tents, and being a military guy, I'm like, I'm gonna case this place out. Like, I'm gonna get a full feel for my surroundings. So I'm like walking around, checking where everything's at, making sure I have a good visual layout of where I'm at. And so I'm sitting back kind of in the shadows, just observing, and it's probably 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, what am I doing here? I can't just get in my car and go home. I'm stuck at this place. I didn't have a vehicle. James was working the festival. It's not like he could take me back to his house or anything. And just sitting there, taking it all in. And this woman came up to me, and she started talking to me and started to explain that I was a wolf and that I could lead in any climate. And in my mind, I'm like, what is this lady talking about? My ego, I'm like, okay, cool, And so she recognized how uncomfortable I was, and she was like, are you okay? Really checked on me and allowed me the space to share what I'm sharing with you now about how uncomfortable and how out of place I felt. And for somebody to acknowledge that was really the start, the spark that started to open me up at the festival. So she walks away, and then she comes back. She's like, I want to take you somewhere. And she takes me to this big, it's like 15-foot canvas that everybody at the festival can get paint and paint on themselves. And she picked up a brush and handed it to me, and she's like, paint something. Paint what you feel. And here's my masculine, ego-driven mind, like, I'm not artistic. I'm not creative. I can draw stick figures. Like, all these beautiful, conscious masterpieces on this wall, I have nothing to contribute to this. And I'm like, no. And she's like, paint what's in your heart. And I just wrote grateful, because that's the only, I just wrote a word, because again, I'm not, still to this day, not very, very artistic when it comes to painting and drawing, but that's neither here nor there. And I just wrote grateful, and I gave her back the brush, and I said, it's your turn. And she put B-E tack U tack tiful. And she said, be you. It's beautiful. And she's like that may sound insignificant, but it was the most powerful, heart-opening experience that really, to this day, was the spark of opening, really cracking my hardened heart to myself, to put down my bags, and you don't have to carry it all, man, and that was really the divine spark. And so a couple days later, now I'm fully engaged in this festival. I'm dancing. I danced one day for probably 15 hours. I probably met 300 people that I would have never talked to, just the most beautiful, open-hearted, loving human beings. And I had never experienced anything like that. Everything is like, especially in the fields that I came from, like machoism and toxic masculinity. You know, the love isn't there. It's tough love. Like, do better. You suck. Shit talking. It was, and there was none of that, man. This place was so beautiful and flowing. Like, there's thousands of people at this festival, and there was no lines for anything. It was just so incredible. There was, in the big crowds, there was none of that awkward, like, walking up to somebody and deciding which direction to go to. Just, I started to take note of how beautifully everything was flowing. It was like, wow. So at this festival, they have a sacred fire where they have a shaman, and it's in the back of the festival grounds, away from all of the music and the stages. And James is like, hey, I want to take you somewhere. I think you'll really enjoy this. And so he took me to the sacred fire, and we had consumed some medicine. I sat with peyote that evening, and that was really my first spiritual breakthrough. As my father came to me, and I don't mean he came visually, but his voice and his presence was there. And he said, Chad, I led you down here to show you how beautiful life can be if you just open your heart and your mind to experience, to let go of the judgment, and kind of a backstory with that, him leading me down there. When he passed, he had a safe lockbox, and instead of like a will and all the important things you'd think you would find in a safe lockbox, it was a manila envelope full of concert and festival tickets. And I never knew that side of my dad, and everybody in the family was like, what the hell is this? Where's all the important shit, and nobody really wanted it. And so I decided to take it. Like, I'll take that, just as a piece of him. I'll take that. Well, that was part of him saying, I led you down here. Like, here I am getting these festival tickets from my dad's safe lockbox, and now I'm sitting in this ceremony. And he's like, this is why you took these. This is why you're here. And from then, it was just like totally broke all the programming that I ever had. And it was strong. That programming was very strong. As an atheist, as a ego-driven, toxic man, no longer. And I came home, and Eric, Eric, he's a dear friend of mine, and he said, dude, you are glowing. You are glowing. And I'm like, oh, dude, I feel so liberated and so... Then I didn't use the word awakened, but I mean, I really had awoken at that moment in that week that I spent in the jungle of Costa Rica. And, as the festival wound down, I was talking to people like, what a beautiful experience, how powerful. And one guy told me, he said, now take this light back to your home and plant seeds. Be the bridge. And it's like, oh. And that's what I've been doing ever since, So very, very powerful time.
That is incredible. And yeah, I'll take a moment to really process and just feel the emotion and power behind that. And yeah, that almost got some tears out of me, man. Almost got some tears out of me. Especially to hear that, through the medicine, your father was able to communicate with you between dimensions, and then to allow you to connect the points of finding the tickets and then being at your first festival all of a sudden, and you got drawn to it and you had no clue why, and then you're there, and then that lady helping you break open your heart just by painting and sharing beautiful words, and then going and sitting by that ceremonial fire. And wow, that's so profound. I'll be honest, like I'm not sure what it just did to me, but it just really shed some layers and opened me up even more. So that is a very powerful experience, and thank you for being the carrier and the medium of that experience, brother.
Thank you for allowing me the space to share, man. It feels good to share your story and to open up and kind of, for me, telling it to relive it, you know, and feel those emotions again. And just, I love you, brother.
Love you too. Definitely love you too. And much love to everybody out there that's also here to support and show love for myself and our brother here. Thank you guys, big time. Wow. So, what year was this Envision Fest?
2016, I believe, was my first Envision Fest. So I've been down. I went back. Needless to say, I went back. So
Yeah.
my first one was 2016.
Okay. And then, so what was your life like after that when you got back to the States?
Confusing. Confusing. It got really confusing, and anybody that's really gone through a awakening can relate, I'm sure. You know, it was exhilarating and exciting, but at the same time, I didn't understand where to take it at that time. And, you know, I'm coming home to my family and they're like, who is this guy? You know, and my frequency within myself had shifted so much that it caused most of my relationships to rattle, you know, when a shift that profound for me happened. It shook up the dynamic of all my relationships and how I was able to connect with people. And, you know, it was also a very exciting time. You know, I wanted to share with the world, you know, look what I found, look at this experience, you know, isn't this amazing? Isn't this profound? You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, so it was a very confusing, exciting, liberating, purpose-filled, I mean, very powerful time.
Okay. Wow. And I believe shortly after that, did you become a juvenile correctional officer?
Okay, so I started working for the juvenile courts right after I got out of the police academy. So I was working as a police officer part-time, you know, because a lot of times it's difficult to get a job, probably not nowadays. But then at the time it was difficult to get on a police agency without having part-time or volunteer time, kind of like firefighters. So I was working part-time at night and I was working for the juvenile court at the same time, full-time. And so I've been there since 2011. So April will be 12 years with the juvenile courts. And even there, you know, my shift, people could see the shift, you know, because I was kind of always the standoffish, very matter-of-fact, militant type of person with the kids. You know, I was very emotionally closed off, do what I say, follow the rules, and everything will go okay. And then you know, going through that experience really opened me up, and it's like, oh man, I started to see their trauma, and I started to see places where I could meet them and offer them the tools. And that further on down the road has led into me teaching meditation and breath work, not only to the juveniles, but to court personnel as well. So it's been really beautiful over the past few years to see these sacred practices being incorporated into government system, you know, and you know, I think that's really beautiful and powerful to see the integration and that bridge being gapped, you know. So
yeah. And our fellow brother Dan just entered the space.
Dan, love you, brother.
Good to see you, Dan. Dan is also another fellow brother out here in Ohio that is in our circle of brotherhood. And speaking of, I actually met Dan at one of your sacred brotherhood spaces that you host at your home. And wow, that was such a beautiful space to experience. And I want to say thank you for having me be a part of that. And
thank you for being a part of it.
Absolutely. Let's touch upon that. You host, you know, these conscious male brotherhood spaces for us brothers to be able to express emotionally, share our traumas, be vulnerable with each other. What inspired you to start up these men's groups, and how long have you been doing them for?
So what really had sparked it is looking for a divine purpose that really filled my cup, and recognizing where I came from and the lack of warrior circles for men to come and put down their shields, because, at least in my experience, I had carried this armor my whole life, trying to keep bad things out, and just recognizing the need for that, and having veteran friends and other friends that were struggling, that didn't have the tools that I had picked up along the way. And it came to me, there's a lot of men's circles out there, but not in my reality. So we should start one, So I talked to Eric, and Eric was on board, and he was more than willing to assist me in holding that space, and really creating an environment for men to be vulnerable for the first time in my experience. And that's so important. It's so important. And you're seeing it more and more in our society of men emotionally opening up, and there being more space for men to open up. And so, yeah, I was just inspired by the lack of that in my reality, and seeing the darkness that people were sitting with all around me. So it was important for me to let people know that they weren't alone, so.
Yeah. Amazing stuff. It's very powerful, especially, there's so many different things we can touch upon when it comes to divine masculine healing and
Right.
the wounds that have been placed upon masculine energy. And not only does it change, the men, but it also changes their relationship with their partners, changes their relationship with the women of the world, as well as with other brothers, and how they treat each other and show love. And yeah, thank you again.
Absolutely, brother.
And so at the juvenile, you teach breath play and meditation. So what does this look like for you? Because that's not a very everyday type of thing, where a officer is taking time to teach breathwork and meditation to the juveniles.
Yeah, it was met with a lot of resistance at first, as you could imagine. But my lieutenant is a very open, conscious being, and he approached me one day. He said, "How would you feel about teaching breath work and meditation? I know you're into that stuff, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Is he messing with me?" Like, really? He's like, "Yeah, man. I think this place could really use it." And so, the first few classes I did, it was, I could hear all the gossip and the talk of, what is this bullshit we got to do, and but I was able to merge the two worlds and show physically. So what I had done is I created this step test. So we would do steps for 3 minutes and get their heart rate up, and then they would implement the breathing technique that I showed them, which I use box breathing, because a lot of people deal with anxiety, and I feel in my experience that box breathing has been a powerful tool to help curb that anxiety for people. So once they applied this breath work after doing the step test, for them to be able to redo the step test with the knowledge afterwards, take some breaths, and then re-monitor their heart rate, these people's heart rates were dropping by 40 beats a minute using this breath work. So I was able to tap into the analytical mind that, the government runs from, and really show people, okay, here's hard data. Like, it's not just this foo-foo bullshit, take a deep breath, and I was able to show them, like, hey, your heart rate dropped 40 beats a minute after this step test by using these techniques. And so it started to open up people's mind. And then as time went on, just me being consistent with not only teaching, but how I showed up every day at work with a positive attitude, uplifting people, not gossiping, not being spiteful, not talking behind people's back. Just the consistency of showing up in a positive manner really started to open people's eyes, like, wow, this guy that uses these tools is really consistent. You know, it's not just bullshit, you know. And for a lot of people it's a heavy environment, you know, working in a jail setting, in a rehab setting. There's a lot of people processing trauma. And again, the officers that work in these jails are not getting the training, you know, well, weren't, at least in my place. And so it was really powerful to see people start opening up to the possibility of how powerful these sacred tools are.
Yeah, that's really beautiful because, you know, I feel like it's opening up these environments to what we ideally would like them to be for, like true rehabilitation,
Right.
true self-discipline and self-awareness, rather than just being like, oh, you did something wrong, I'm gonna throw you in here, now you're a piece of shit, and you deserve to be treated wrong. You don't deserve anything good for yourself. And, you know, I can heavily relate, but on the opposite side of that, as a lot of you guys know through my story, is that I had been in and out of jail for a couple of years, and I also went to prison. And when I went to prison, I ended up teaching about 7 to 8 different people, other inmates, meditation, along with the chakras and how to do meditation and breathing to balance the chakras. And it was really profound. You know, there was nobody that I've ever heard of while I was in there that was doing that with other inmates. And it meant everything to me to see that there were people in there that were open to just learning and finding a better way of living. And yeah, it's truly an honor to be able to be in that type of environment, whether it's as an officer or as an inmate, to be able to bring that light and be a pillar. It's really a beautiful thing.
It is, brother. And I think it's so beautiful how we arrived at the same point from the opposite ends of the spectrum, you know, and I'm so grateful to have connected with you many years ago, and be a divine brother of mine.
Yeah, it's truly incredible. Really grateful. And let's see, I think we have a couple questions.
Okay.
So first question is from Soul Awakening with Sandra, and she actually isn't here at the moment, but her question is, how did your spiritual awakening help in making life choices?
Great question. Thank you for the question. It helped me by becoming more conscious of my decisions and starting to really dive into the knowledge of what it means to be heart-centered man and to lead from the heart, you know, in an ego-driven society. And from the program that I had experienced, the analytical mind is king, you know, and I didn't know how to lead from my heart. So having and going through the spiritual awakening and becoming aware of what's behind the veil, if you will, really has allowed me to absorb and process and respond instead of react. So I think that's the most powerful thing that we can do, is bring information and happenings into our heart center, take a deep breath, and keep what resonates with us, and then discard what doesn't, you know. And so it helps me to make more pure decisions for my greatest good and my family's greatest good.
Beautiful. Amazing questions today, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
And then we have another question from good old Energy Soul Child. And that question is, how did you feel after having your first session of breathwork and meditation with the juveniles?
Oh man, very judgmental of myself, honestly.
Good
it
answer.
Left me, yeah, man. It was tough because I could hear all the chirping behind the scenes of what are we doing? And, you know, as the instructor of that, that's tough. You know, I want people to respond in a positive manner. So I really started to absorb those judgments and judge myself. You know, honestly, when I first started doing it, it was like, dude, what are you doing? this is not the place. This ain't it. This ain't it.
Yeah.
And so I felt really judged from within. You know, I really beat myself up. Like, you don't have to do this. You can tell them you don't want to do it. You know, I went through this whole inner dialogue of, what are you really doing? What is your purpose here? And over time, as I taught more and more classes, it's like, it's the truth. This is truth. You are being a beacon of light and offering tools, you know. So at first it was very judgmental.
Yeah. I have to say, and for me, it was the same when I was doing it in prison, because we would go like all the way out to the grass to the softball field. And we'd just be like the only people just sitting down Indian style out in the grass
Right.
at the softball field. And you got prisoners just running around with their shirts off, like doing the pull-ups and like, you know, being toxic masculine and stuff like that.
Right.
And then, you know, you have like 2 to 3 of these like more feminine male figures just sitting out in the grass doing meditation. But I really had to break through the self-judgment. It wasn't even judgment from others. It was self-judgment.
Right.
And just really like embrace the impact that what I was doing was going to really change and shift people's lives. And after a while, I just kept consistent with it and kept doing it. And yeah, just started coming across more people and started shifting them and changing their life. And yeah, thank you, brother, for doing that and being able to move through those beginning stages of criticism and self-doubt and other things like that.
Thank you, brother.
Absolutely. So let's see. You are a carrier of this flame, and it's called the violet flame. Now, what was your experience that connected you and made you aware of this divine light called the violet flame?
So somebody that I connected with digitally had reached out to me, and he said, "Hey man, we got to get on a call." And I'm like, okay. I never talked to him in person or over the phone, and so we did a call. And he's like, "Man, I just had this dream that was so powerful. I don't know what it means, but you were in it." I'm like, okay. Never met you, but that, you know, my judgment's like, that's kind of weird. But he told me about his dream, and he said that I was sitting by the fire and it became violet, and then a violet light started burning in my chest, and then it just kept expanding, and I became the violet flame. Like, my physical vessel was no longer there, but where I was sitting was this violet flame. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means. So I started sitting with it in meditation, and I started doing research on what the violet flame was, and other people's wisdom and experience with the violet flame, and it just resonated immediately. I'm like, oh yeah. You know, you get, for me, when you come across these bits of information, it shakes your system, and it almost makes you nauseous. You know, for me, it made me super nauseous when it started to resonate. Like, oh wow, it's a lot of information. It's, you know, that's a lot of powerful energy. You know, and I didn't understand it, but sitting with it and understanding it and starting to play with it in meditation, and using it in some energy healing work, and offering my trauma and negative energy and negative emotion to this violet flame to transmute it. And it's been a beautiful journey. And actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because you and I, the first time that we sat in meditation together by the river, what was that, our second time hanging out?
Yeah, I think it was our second time ever.
Yeah. And so we're sitting by the river and meditating, and I believe it was you said, "Do you see that?"
Yeah.
And I knew exactly what you're talking about, because eyes closed, I saw this glowing violet orb. And I'm like, okay, Okay, at the time, I didn't know you had dabbled with the violet flame as well in Saint Germain. And what was even the most profound for me is not only both of us seeing that through our mind's eye, is I opened my physical eyes and there it was out over the river. I'm like, holy shit. Like, wow, you
Yeah.
know, for me, my analytical mind along this journey has made me question myself when I have these experiences. Like, dude, are you losing your fucking mind? Excuse my language, but are you losing your mind, dude? Like, what are you doing? But then when you have those experiences with other beings and you know, there's no denying it, you know, so you put the analytical mind aside, like, no, you're good, man. This is part of lifting that veil of the true power of all the dimensions merged together, you know. So
Yeah, I remember that too. And we were completely sober too, by the way, for everybody out
absolutely.
there. And we went to the crystal shop, the one down in Milford, and then went down to the river afterwards. And I remember we were sitting there on the little beachy area and just went into meditation by the river. And I had my eyes open, you had your eyes closed, and all of a sudden I just saw this purple orb just blooping along the river. And I'm like, yeah, do you see that? And then you open your eyes and you're like, wow, yeah, I see that. And you're describing how you were seeing that with your eyes closed. And I'm just like, wow, that was incredible. Especially second time ever hanging out. First time ever even just like going out and experiencing nature together. And that's what happened. Like, holy smokes.
Powerful connection, brother.
And for everybody out there, the violet flame is a ray of light that helps with transmutation as well as regeneration and healing. And this is something that you can call upon mentally to help cleanse any darkness, any blocks, any negative energy in your space or in your mind and emotions, and release it so it can be transmuted into light and strength. And if you are someone that likes to connect with beings, guides, or angels, you can call upon the Ascended Master Saint Germain, and he will helpfully come into your space and help you out and be present with you if you ever need any assistance with transmuting, healing any pain, or releasing. Yeah. It's very beautiful when we start stepping into these different flames and rays of lights that are here to assist us.
You know, can I share another cool experience you and I had together in regards to the violet flame?
Yes.
Do you remember the Zoom meditation that we did? Maybe last year, it might have been 2 years ago. But we started sharing about the violet flame, and then there was a woman that pulled cards for us, and the first card was Saint Germain and the violet flame. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
you know, it just those confirmations. It's not needed anymore, but it's just still like, okay.
Yeah. It's like candy for the soul, you know. It just like really gets that giddiness going. I love that.
I do too, man. I do too.
So another thing that you've been providing and also putting passion into is what we call Lights at the Round Table. And that is your own authentic podcast with good brother Eric Dixon. And I can't remember exactly, but how long have you been doing this podcast for?
Okay, so we hit the 2-year mark at the end of last year, the last October, and then Eric had a baby. So we're on a temporary hiatus, if you will, while he adjusts to having a new being in his life. But we have 100 episodes out there on all major platforms. If you're interested, there's some really good content. But yeah, we did it for 2 years. We only missed 3 weeks for different vacations and stuff, and we were consistent, you know, and sharing our voice, sharing our story, and also bringing tools and knowledge of all kinds of modalities and the things that we had experienced, and some really good content. So if you're feeling called, go check it out.
And that's on all platforms?
It is.
Including Spotify, Apple, and all those?
Correct.
Awesome. So I just go ahead and pinned it down at the bottom there.
Thank you.
The Lights at the Round Table podcast. It's on all platforms. If you guys want to check out our brother and our good friend Eric and what kind of content they have to deliver through their podcasts. I have to say it's a lot of really, really genuine and conscious expanding content. It's very relatable for all of us. It's not anything too expansive beyond average consciousness. And I've actually had the honor to be on 2 of the episodes.
Yeah.
And
Have.
we talked about some powerful topics, man. We talked about the illusion and control that they use through race. And also, I got to share my story on there. So if you guys want to hear another time period of me sharing my story and some other perspectives from that time period, that is something else that you can see on that podcast.
Yeah, we covered a lot of things, man. We covered chakras. We covered master numbers. We covered a lot of really good stuff and created some really good content with you. And grateful to have you on, brother.
Yeah, it's a great honor, man. And is there any other practices that you've been utilizing or gotten certified in?
No certifications. That's that's a tricky one that I struggle with. Most of my life, you hear you got to have a degree, you got to have a certification, and I struggle with it in a sense that I am capable of doing all those things. Why do I need to pay somebody else to teach me what I already know? And so that's a bit of an ego struggle that I have. It's like, I don't need to get certified to practice energy work. Like, I don't need you to tell me my divine gifts and me give you money for it, So that's a struggle of mine with certifications. But as far as the tools and things that I use in my everyday life, physical exercise is very important to me. From the foundation that was laid in the military and through law enforcement, taking care of my temple is very powerful. So staying in the gym several days a week, running, sweating, hydrating, good food, helps me perform optimally, helps me dive deeper in meditation, helps me transcend some of the life lessons and generational trauma that I have encountered in my life and break those chains of lineage past. And it's been such an honor and a privilege for Spirit to trust me to be that guy, to break those generational curses and really allow my lineage to transcend those dark times in my family's past. So
yeah, incredible, man.
Yeah, I think a lot of times what I've experienced is people are really good at one pillar of their life and not necessarily merging all pillars of their life as far as spiritual, mental, physical. You see people that are extremely physical fit, like I was in the military, with no sense of spirit. Or you see people that are extremely spiritual and deep into meditation that don't necessarily have an ego, which is not a bad thing, but ego is our human experience. It's an essential part of this reality. Like, yes, you can transcend the ego and dissolve the ego, but in my understanding and what I've experienced is a lot of times that leaves you out of balance as a human, because you do have to have a voice in this reality. You do have to have a voice to share your egoic experience, because that's your human experience. So just really being mindful of maintaining balance within all the pillars of my life has been a powerful tool to help me transmute and transcend some of those life lessons as well.
Well said, brother. I absolutely agree. And, that's what this space is all about with the process of clearing layers, is finding ways to find that harmony and to shed the layers that are blocking us from being aligned when it comes to the mind, body, emotions, and spiritual energy. And it's really key that we are balanced in all these aspects of ourselves, because we are multidimensional beings and we have all these different, what we call bodies of ourself within our aura, which are the mental body, the emotional body, physical, astral, and beyond. And if one is out of balance, it's actually going to bring out of balance the other one. And they're all intertwined and connected in each moment. So the more that we can stay in harmony on each level, the more we are able to be in wholeness, balance, and harmony with our entire being, which brings the most optimal health and most optimal experience for us.
Beautifully said, brother.
Thank you. So before we wrap up, what are some main keys that you would like to leave for everybody on what it takes to not only deprogram yourself, but also reprogram yourself?
So to deprogram, the thing that jumps out at me is being honest with yourself. It is the hardest thing in the world to do, is to be honest with yourself, because we want to tell ourselves, oh, you're good, you don't have to do that, we'll do that tomorrow, and that's your internal dialogue that nobody else experiences. So to deprogram, you've got to be able to look at yourself from an outsider's view, if you will, kind of detach yourself and self-analyze, and you've got to be honest, and it's painful. It's painful to look at your shadows. It's a grueling process, and so to deprogram, just becoming aware, of your own darkness, and then understanding that it's the darkness that sees the light. So once you integrate those shadows and work through those difficult times, through consistent action, through routine, I think routine and consistent action is the best way to program your reality. You're not going to become successful at something, whatever you're embarking on, by doing it half-ass or, not giving it your all. So be consistent, be honest with yourself, and set out, visualize. There's so many tools like vision boards, affirmations, like there's so many subcategories I could talk for days about. But consistent action and honesty is to keep it the most simple for you listeners. Be honest with yourself and create a consistent plan to your path.
Wonderful, man. I think that's a very good gem and key to leave. And I agree, consistency is huge, because that repetition is what's going to program our subconscious. And, we have done so much repetition and consistency with the things that have been stored in our subconscious that have, limited us and kept us in toxic behaviors and vibrations. So if we want to be able to transcend that and get to a vibration and a state of being that we really dream and wish to be in, we're going to have to be able to unprogram and be able to switch up and shift where the subconscious is focusing and what it has stored in its memory bank as the way it's supposed to be through the programming. So for me, things like meditation every day, doing my chakra balancing every morning before I leave bed, that has been huge, and I've been doing that for years straight. I've missed a couple of days here and there, of course, but it's been solid about 4 years now, 5 years almost, of almost every morning doing a chakra balance meditation. And then every now and then I incorporate yoga or going to the gym afterwards. And and this really comes to me right now, is to prioritize yourself. Make yourself a priority. There's a lot of us out in the world where we have been so programmed by society to prioritize externally, whether it's our job, it's our families, it's school, and all these other things. And yes, they're important because they're what's going to give us our path and what's going to help us be able to live and do the things that we want to do to be quote unquote successful in this world. But how are you going to be successful? How are you going to be able to even do these things if you're not even maintaining and managing your own well-being, your clarity, and your stability? And if we can just kind of, block off a small section of our mornings or our nighttime or a good time in the evening after big events to reset and recalibrate ourselves, it makes the ultimate difference. And this is something I actually help teach and guide my clients in my intuitive life guidance sessions, is looking at how we can break old daily patterns and habits and routines and integrate within the everyday life schedule, whether you're a mother or a father or a student or a teacher, a really dedicated worker. We really look at where in your schedule it is realistic and in your reality to be able to create a small block of time to recalibrate and refresh that energy, so then you can have a more balanced approach to your day.
Absolutely. And, I think it all starts with the inner dialogue, and just to touch on time, how often do you hear, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that. It's like, you're never going to find the time. You have to make the time. Time is man-made measurement, right? So you have to make the time. You're not going to find it. It'll forever be elusive, if you don't make you a priority, like you said, man. That is beautifully stated.
Yep. And it's really just about shifting and rearranging. Just really like looking at the full spectrum of your day and just seeing where you can shift a couple of things. And you'll find that, sometimes we're spending a half hour doing something that we don't even need to do. And then you can use that half hour right there. And
absolutely.
Yeah, these are things that you can ask me questions about, or I'm sure even our brother Chad, I'm sure you'd like to give a little wisdom as well.
Always willing to share.
So, is there anything else that you would like to share for the collective? And also, my final question too, before we head off, is what is the future that you envision through your hope?
Oh man, that's a loaded one.
So, what is the future that you envision through these practices, through the transformation that you've been through for your own self, and what you would like to bring to the world and build? And what can we all do to help support you on that?
Oh man, that's a really beautiful question, brother. So the hope that I envision is exactly what you said, is self-love. If everybody could drop into their heart space and just love themselves unconditionally, you're going to screw up. You're going to make bad decisions. Bad things are going to happen. Death is inescapable. So there's going to be dark times in your life where you're processing negative emotion. And when we can love ourselves unconditionally through that, the whole world just opens up, much like the heart opening experience that I had to be you. It's beautiful. You are beautiful. And when we can love ourselves unconditionally, we can walk that path and carry that vibration and be that beacon of light for others. Like, oh man, they're really consistent. You can tell they love themselves because they take care of themselves, on all pillars and all fronts of this reality. So as far as moving forward, what I'm going to bring to this reality, we're actually planning with AJ, AJ and Isaac, a couple guys from the men's group. We're actually planning a veterans retreat. So I'm going to be that bridge, and we're going to teach these modalities of breath work, meditation, ice baths, physical exercise, leading into a plant medicine ceremony that I am going to hold the space for and create a container for some deep work, with the veterans to release some trauma, hopefully. Obviously we don't know what's going to come of those ceremonies, but the intent is to help aid these men and these warriors in putting down their bags and putting down the weight that they've carried through their service and throughout their whole life. And that's something that came to me very early on in my journey, is be the bridge. And so moving forward, that's what I'm doing, be the bridge of of being a heart-centered man, but also being that warrior in the garden. Knowing your capacity for violence and maintaining that is very powerful. And so helping these guys and girls, we haven't had any women sign up, but it's open to both male and female. Just helping them release. The medicine can be such a powerful tool for releasing the traumas and experiences that we've had by processing them and lifting that veil and really taking a look at it, and sometimes we don't have an option when it comes to plant medicines to face those things that we aren't consciously aware that are buried.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. My own experience, it has helped me shed many layers as well. I'm really grateful for my path and where I am today. I want to be who I am without it. And it's amazing because I've gone through so many different experiences and healing moments. And, it's incredible now because I'm at a point where I have just been, fully sober with everything. And I'm unlocking and activating my inner chi so well. But it took those steps and it took the medicine to really start switching up and shifting my paradigm on what reality was and who I was. And I'm really grateful for it all.
Me as well. I'm grateful for you, brother.
I'm grateful for you. And for everybody out there, I'm going to go ahead and add at the end of this live on the full YouTube episode one of our brother Chad's box breathing techniques. So you guys will be able to tap in and try out one of the techniques and practices at the end of the episode on Tuesday. That will be out at 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube channel Sacred Light Healing and Wellness. And don't forget, you guys can also check out the Lights at the Round Table podcast on all platforms, including Spotify and Apple. And this is hosted by our brother Chad and one of our other good brothers, Eric. And he has over 100 episodes now. And it's very conscious and expansive topics. I think you guys will definitely enjoy it and be able to get some good fruit and wisdom from those. And I guess that is it for today. Honestly, I'd love to have some more sessions with you online where
yes,
we can go in depth about some specific categories of what we talked about, such as, what reprogramming can really look like in depth and, just really go into the finer details about some of these things we touched upon so people can take some more tools and try some things in their own personal life that we had talked about today but didn't get to go in depth about.
I would love that, brother. I would love that.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. Well, do you have any final word at all?
First and foremost, thank you, brother, for creating this space. And I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of your consistent action and sharing your voice and creating. So thank you, all of you watching. Thank you so much. Sending my love and gratitude to all of you. Marcus, you are the man. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. And I'm only the man because we all are.
That's right. Divine reflection.
Man, it has been an honor, and I'm so glad that I had this opportunity to really bring you on here as one of my good brothers for a few years now and let you connect with this Instagram community as well as get yourself out there on the YouTube channel as well. Look forward to our journeys and sending you love, brother.
Received and reciprocated, brother.
Oh, and the queen just said it's 1:33. Look at that.
Nice. 2 master 33s here too.
Oh, you're 33. That's right. Wow. Whew. And that's actually my queen, Holistic Butterfly. If you want to follow her on Instagram here, you'll be able to get in contact with her anytime and check out what she's all about.
Beautiful, brother.
All right,
I
bro.
hope you have a wonderful Sunday.
You as well. Stay blessed, and I love you.
Hey, what's up, beautiful souls? Happy Thursday. I hope this message finds you in a center-loving place, and I hope that your day is going really well, and I hope that you're going to finish your week strong with presence and happiness. Today I wanted to talk about breath work, and I also wanted to go through a box breathing exercise with you. It's one of my most used exercises when I do my breathing routines, and it has so many benefits, and I can't stress enough the importance of becoming conscious of how you breathe. You know, it's a fundamental of life, and so often we are unconscious of how we are breathing. And a lot of times when we have anxiety or we're stressed out, we're breathing shallow, quick in the top of our chest. And what this does is it creates a operating system that is running from a fight or flight system. So you have basically two nervous systems, and they're the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. Well, what most people operate from is the sympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system is run when you are in your fight or flight response. So you are tense, you are ready to go at all times, and that unfortunately is the state that most people live in because we have such a fast-paced life. We're unconscious of our diets, we're unconscious of our air intake, our water intake, the food that we're taking in. And when I say diet, I mean all of the energy we're taking in, from music to television to all the external information that we're absorbing, and we're unconscious of it. So when we operate from this state, we stay in a state of anxiety. And when we breathe in the top of our lungs, this also is activating our adrenal glands. And obviously, most of you have heard of adrenal fatigue. Well, a large part of adrenal fatigue is people operating from that fight or flight round the clock. Another thing about the nervous systems, the parasympathetic nervous system, which the box breathing exercise will tap you into. That nervous system is your rest and digest. So if you are not tapping into that parasympathetic nervous system, your body's always tense, you're not getting oxygen to your muscles, so your muscles are sore and tight all the time, and you have aches and pains all over your body. Excuse me. And the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest, will actually help you keep weight off because you're digesting properly. When you're in the fight or flight response, your body's pumping cortisol. All these stress hormones are telling your body to go into conservation mode, and you're conserving. So you see people operating from the sympathetic nervous system, and they're storing all the unconscious, most of the time, shit that we're shoveling in our mouths with sugar and preservatives and dyes and all these things that are in our foods. We're not even digesting them. Not only are they bad for us, but then we choose, well, unconsciously choose to not digest them and get rid of them. And we're not drinking water to flush them through our systems. So our body is retaining all of this. Meanwhile, we're not getting oxygen, we're tense, we're tight, we're sore, and injuries, disease, you name it. If it's not a pleasant experience, it's from running these systems that pack these nerves full of anxiety and all that. So your parasympathetic nervous system is what we want to tap into with these breathing exercises. And once we get started with this exercise, I'm going to play a clip and it'll ding and you'll get the rhythm of it. If you don't get the rhythm of it right off the bat, it's not a big deal. if your mind is racing and I'm not doing this right, or you miss one of the changes. So what you're going to do is you're going to you're going to inhale for 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds, exhale for 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds. So it creates that box. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. And we'll do this for about, I think the video is 10 minutes, and this is something that I use in my classes that I teach at the courts. And I get such a beautiful response and activity that I do with people to show them, because the analytical mind wants to see numbers, and especially in a system like the courts, you know, the ego or the analytical mind is wanting to see numbers to see change, you know, because we're so disconnected from feeling that we have to see it. We have to use our human senses instead of feeling that divine stillness that the breath can bring you. So, if you have any questions afterwards, please feel free to message me. Reach out. I'm here to serve. I charge nothing for any of the tools that I have. I will work with you. I will give you everything I have, and I don't need anything from you. I am just here to serve, love, and light. And all light is information. So tap into the light. We'll get this video started. Again, inhale for 5, hold for 5, exhale for 5, hold for 5. And one thing I like to tell people that take my classes is, once you get into the rhythm and you get set and you're going with the rhythm of the beeps and the tones, which you'll hear, start to tap into the stillness you feel in those pauses, and especially the stillness that you feel after exhaling, when your lungs are completely empty. That stillness is your true self. Because so often when operating from that sympathetic nervous system, and we're stressed and we're fight or flight, adrenaline pumping nonstop every day, we tend to think of ourselves as these chaotic, frantic, anxiety-filled beings, when really we're not. We're so much more than that. We're multi-dimensional, divine beings of light. And we have just forgotten through our unconscious living and through our egoic ways. So this can bring you back to it. So pay attention to that stillness at the base of your exhale. That's you. It's getting ready to start. 1, go. Hold. Exhale. Hold. Inhale. Hold. Hope you're getting the rhythm. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. You're doing great. Let the racing thoughts go. Hold. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. Feel the stillness. Exhale. Exhale. Let it all out. Hold, feel the stillness. Keep going, you're doing great. Inhale love. Hold it. Exhale the stress. Exhale the worry. Inhale abundance. Hold it in your heart. Exhale discouraging beliefs.